Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
This time, we're going to be talking about something you might think you know, but trust me, there's a lot more to it. White-collar crime.
Oh, yeah.
We've got some really cool sources lined up,
hmm
a couple of YouTube videos, an online article,
Okay.
all about these big, infamous cases,
Yeah.
how these things even happen in the first place, and how they impact everyone, not just the super rich.
Yeah, that's right. It's not just a problem for the 1%. It
Right.
affects us all.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe we should start off with,
Yeah.
what even IS white collar crime, because it's a
Yeah.
term we hear a lot,
Yeah.
but what does it actually mean?
It's a great question, and it's not always super clear cut. But in general, when we're talking about white collar crime, we're talking about non-violent offenses that happen in a professional or business setting.
Okay.
The goal is usually financial gain, and the way they do it often involves some kind of deception, concealment, or violation of trust.
So we're not talking about physical violence or anything like that, but it can still do a lot of damage.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just one act of fraud, for instance, could bring down a whole company, wipe out people's retirement savings. I mean, it can even destabilize entire economies.
I mean, yeah. I remember back in the early 2000s, the Enron scandal. That was huge.
Enron is like the textbook example of corporate fraud.
Yeah.
I mean, the executives, they were basically cooking the books,
So,
right?
right.
Making the profits look way bigger than they actually were and hiding billions of dollars in debt.
And then when it all came out,
Well, the whole thing imploded. Enron filed for bankruptcy in 2001. I mean, we're talking a loss of $74 billion in market value, just gone.
wow.
Thousands of people lost their jobs, and a lot of them, their life savings were tied up in Enron stock, so they lost everything.
That's terrible. And that actually led to some big changes, right? Didn't they pass a law because of Enron?
Yeah, the Enron scandal led to the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. This law was all about making sure companies were being more transparent with their finances, holding executives accountable.
So are things better now?
That's a great question. It's hard to say for sure. I mean, are companies really being more careful, or are they just finding new ways to get around the rules?
That's a good question. I mean, there's always going to be someone trying to figure out how to game the system.
Right.
Well, speaking of gaming the system, you can't talk about white-collar crime without talking about Bernie Madoff.
Oh, Madoff. His Ponzi scheme was just massive.
It's almost hard to comprehend, right? Like how much
Yes.
money we're talking about here.
Decades he was running this thing, and it's estimated he defrauded investors of something like $65 billion.
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 That's insane. And he got a pretty hefty sentence too, right?
150 years, basically a life sentence.
I mean, do you think that kind of sentence, really sends a message?
Well, some people say it does, like, hey, if you commit these kinds of financial crimes, you're going to pay a serious price. But others argue it's too harsh, especially when you compare it to other types of crime. It's a complex issue for sure.
For sure. Okay, so we've got Enron, we've got Madoff, but then there's also the Martha Stewart case, which is interesting because it brought white-collar crime into, the world of celebrities.
Right. Her case was all about insider trading.
Insider trading. Now, what exactly is that?
So imagine you get some secret information about a company, something that's not public knowledge, and you use that information to buy or sell stock, giving you an unfair advantage. That's insider trading.
Okay, that makes sense. But isn't a lot of investing based on, information and research? Where's the line between that and insider trading?
It's a good question, and it can definitely be a gray area. But in Martha Stewart's case, she got tipped off that a drug from ImClone Systems was going to be rejected by the FDA. So she sold her stock in the company before the news became public.
So she avoided a big loss.
Right. But even though she wasn't the one who came up with the scheme, she was still found guilty of obstruction of justice and perjury. She ended up serving 5 months in prison.
Wow, 5 months compared to Madoff's 150 years. That's a big difference.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how these sentences are decided, right? Like, what factors are they considering when they determine how long someone should be punished? It's complicated.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about Enron, Madoff, Martha Stewart, but we've got a lot more to cover. There's WorldCom, and I read about this recent case involving a company was specifically for helping college students with their finances.
Oh, yeah, that one's interesting. It really shows how these crimes are constantly evolving.
Yeah, totally. But before we dive into those, maybe we should step back and look at some of the techniques these white-collar criminals use.
Sounds good to me.
Our sources actually outline a few common strategies. It's like a cheat sheet for understanding how they operate. Although, hopefully no one's listening to this to get ideas right.
Haha.
So let's start with fraud. Now, that's a pretty broad term. Can you break that down a little?
Yeah, so in the world of white-collar crime, fraud basically means intentionally tricking someone for financial gain. We saw that with Enron, manipulating those accounting records.
Right. And WorldCom did something similar, right? Like messing with their finances to make things look better than they were.
Exactly. They were hiding billions of dollars in expenses to deceive investors and inflate the value of the company.
And of course, that had huge consequences for everyone involved.
Absolutely. It was devastating for investors, employees, the whole economy.
So fraud is all about deception. What about embezzlement?
Embezzlement is basically stealing money that you've been trusted with.
Okay.
This happens a lot inside companies where people in charge, people you'd think you could trust, use their access to money for their own personal gain.
So like executives using company funds for themselves.
Exactly. A great example is the Tyco International scandal.
Yeah.
The CEO and CFO, they were using company money for all sorts of crazy stuff, like a $6,000 shower curtain, a $2 million birthday party.
Wait, a $6,000 shower curtain?
Yeah.
That's wild. And this wasn't just a one-time thing, right?
Oh, no. There's also Adelphia Communications.
Hmm.
The family that owned the company, they were basically treating it like their personal bank account, using company funds for things like a private golf course, fancy apartments in New York. It's crazy the things people do when they think they can get away with it.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder. Okay, so we've got fraud, we've got embezzlement. Now, let's talk about something that sounds straight out of a movie. Money laundering.
Ooh, yeah, money laundering. Sounds glamorous, right?
A little bit.
But it's a serious crime. It's basically taking money you got illegally and making it look like it came from somewhere legit.
So how do they do that?
It can get pretty complex, but usually it involves a bunch of transactions, moving money around to cover up the trail. Shell companies, legitimate businesses, even casinos can be used to make dirty money look clean.
That's interesting you mentioned casinos, because I remember reading about Jack Abramoff, the lobbyist. He was convicted of fraud and all sorts of things. He was using casino deals as part of his money laundering scheme.
Yeah, his case is a good example of how money laundering can get tied up with other crimes.
Yeah.
He wasn't just cleaning money, he was using it for bribes and other illegal activities. It's like a whole web of deception.
It's crazy how these things can get so intricate.
Yeah.
Okay, last one on our list of techniques, insider trading. This is one that I think a lot of people have heard of, especially if they follow the stock market at all.
Right, insider trading, it's all about using secret information to make money in the stock market. You get a tip that a company's stock is about to go up or down, and you buy or sell accordingly. It's illegal because it gives you an unfair advantage over everyone else.
Yeah, it'd be like having a crystal ball, right? Knowing the future. But it obviously hurts the integrity of the market if some people have that kind of advantage.
Exactly. It erodes trust in the whole system.
And Martha Stewart's case is a perfect example, right? Using that information about Imclone to sell her stock before everyone else.
Exactly. It shows that even small acts of insider trading can have big consequences.
For sure. It's really amazing, or maybe terrifying is a better word, to see all the different ways that people can commit these financial crimes.
It is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's important to remember that this isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. We're talking about real people, real lives being impacted by these actions.
Absolutely. We've got to remember the human cost of these crimes. It's not just about money. It's about people losing their life savings, their homes, their futures.
It's a ripple effect that can touch everyone. And that's something we're going to explore in more detail as we continue this deep dive.
Looking forward to it.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor.
Sounds good.
So before the break, we were talking about how white-collar crime can really shake our faith in the system.
Right. It makes you question who you can trust, even in areas like finance that are supposed to be all about responsibility.
Exactly. And we were about to dive into some more recent cases. You mentioned one involving a company that was supposed to be helping college students.
Yeah, this one's pretty wild. It involves a young entrepreneur, Charlie Gervais, and her company, Frank. Frank was supposed to be this platform, like a one-stop shop for helping students with college finances, navigating financial aid, all that stuff.
Sounds useful. So what happened?
Well, she managed to sell Frank to JP Morgan Chase, the big bank, for a whopping $175 million.
Wow. 175 million. That's incredible. But I'm guessing there's more to the story.
Oh, yeah, there's a big twist. Turns out Gervais allegedly inflated the number of Frank users, like big time, to make the company seem way more valuable than it really was.
Wait, so she basically lied about how many people were using Frank.
Yeah.
How did she think she could get away with that?
That's what everyone's wondering. JP Morgan says they were totally misled, but it's crazy how bold this alleged scheme was. She claimed Frank had over 4 million users, but in reality, it was more like 300,000.
That's a huge difference. You'd think a giant company like JP Morgan would do their homework before spending that much money.
You would think, right? It just goes to show that even the biggest, most sophisticated companies can be victims of fraud. It's a good reminder that we all need to be skeptical, do our research, even when we're dealing with successful, charismatic people.
So what happened to Gervais after all this came out?
She's facing some pretty serious charges, fraud, conspiracy, the whole nine yards. If she's convicted, she could be looking at a lot of time behind bars.
Wow. It's just crazy to me that this happened in an industry that's supposed to be all about helping students, making responsible financial decisions.
I know, it really makes you think. It shows that these kinds of crimes can happen anywhere, even in areas that seem like they're doing good.
Absolutely. So, zooming out a bit, why should our listeners care about all of this? I mean, how does white-collar crime affect everyday people?
These crimes might seem like something that only happens to the rich and famous, but they can have a ripple effect on all of us. Think about it. When these big companies collapse, when investors lose money, it can destabilize the whole economy. Jobs are lost, prices go up, everyone feels the impact.
It's like a chain reaction.
Exactly. And beyond the economic impact, there's also the erosion of trust. When we see these kinds of crimes happening, it makes us question our institutions, our banks, our government, even our own communities.
And that loss of trust can be really hard to rebuild.
It can. It creates a sense of cynicism, like the whole system is rigged against us, and that can be really damaging in the long run.
So what can people do to protect themselves? I mean, it feels like these scams are everywhere these days.
Knowledge is key. The more you understand about how these crimes work, the better equipped you'll be to spot them and avoid them.
So educate yourself. What else?
Don't be afraid to ask questions. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Do your research, check references, don't be pressured into making quick decisions,
Good advice.
and be vigilant about protecting your personal information. Identity theft is a huge problem, and it's often connected to financial fraud.
So be careful about what you share online, who you give your information to.
Exactly. And beyond individual actions, we can all advocate for greater transparency and accountability in the business world. Support organizations that are fighting white-collar crime, push for stronger regulations, demand better from our leaders.
It's about creating a system that's less susceptible to these kinds of crimes in the first place.
Absolutely. It's a collective effort. We all have a role to play.
Well said. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. From those infamous cases to the techniques these criminals use and the far-reaching impact of their actions.
It's been a fascinating discussion. I hope our listeners are walking away with a better understanding of this complex world.
Me too. So to wrap things up, I want to leave you all with a question to think about. What safeguards, either personal or systemic, do you think would be most effective in combating white-collar crime in the future?
It's a question that deserves a lot of thought. There's no easy answer, but by staying informed, being critical thinkers, demanding transparency, and holding people accountable, we can all contribute to a more ethical and just system.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. We've been talking about, how white-collar crime can impact anyone, not just the super wealthy.
Right, exactly.
And it's not always these, massive corporations or billion-dollar schemes either. It could be something that happens right in your own community,
Absolutely.
like a small business owner getting scammed or someone falling victim to identity theft.
Yeah, the stories don't always make the headlines, but they can be just as devastating for the people involved.
So let's talk about some of those smaller-scale crimes, the ones that maybe don't get as much attention but can still have a huge impact.
Sure. What do you have in mind?
Well, I was reading about this case, a local contractor who was defrauding homeowners,
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
like a classic bait and switch,
He'd offer a really low price to get the job, and then once the work started, he'd start tacking on all these extra fees, Like, oh, we found this problem, or we need more material.
Exactly. And a lot of people, they don't really know enough about construction to argue, so they just end up paying way more than they expected.
It's taking advantage of people who are already in a vulnerable position.
And it's not just construction, right? This kind of thing happens in all sorts of industries.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Anytime you're hiring someone to do a job, whether it's fixing your roof or managing your finances, there's always a risk that you could be taken advantage of.
It's a real violation of trust.
Absolutely. And the impact goes beyond just the money. It can make people afraid to hire anyone, afraid to trust anyone in their community.
It really erodes that sense of security.
Exactly.
So what can people do? How do you protect yourself from something like that?
Well, first of all, do your research, check references, get multiple bids. Don't just go with the cheapest option.
Makes sense.
And don't let anyone pressure you into making a quick decision. Take your time, think things through.
Good advice. Now, let's talk about another type of scam that seems to be everywhere these days. Online scams.
Oh, yeah.
With everyone online now, it feels like the scammers are having a field day.
It's true. They're constantly coming up with new ways to trick people.
Like those phishing emails.
Yeah, you get an email that looks like it's from your bank or a store you shop at, and they try to get you to click on a link or give them your personal information.
I've gotten those before. They can look so real.
They're getting really good at it, which makes it even more important to be cautious.
So what can people do to protect themselves?
First and foremost, be skeptical. Don't click on any links in emails unless you're 100% sure they're legitimate. Go directly to the website yourself.
Okay, good tip. What else?
And if you see an offer that seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Like no one's really giving away free iPads, right?
Exactly. And be careful when you're shopping online. Stick to reputable websites, use secure payment methods, and always double-check the URL to make sure it's the real deal.
It's kind of sad that we have to be so careful online.
I know, but it's the reality of the world we live in. Technology has made things easier in a lot of ways, but it's also made it easier for criminals to reach us.
Well, I think this deep dive has given our listeners a lot to think about. We've covered a lot of ground, from those big corporate scandals to the everyday scams that can impact anyone.
It's been a really interesting conversation. Hopefully, people are walking away with a better understanding of this whole world of white-collar crime and how to stay safe.
I think so too. Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay informed, stay vigilant, and remember, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is.